Hi, welcome back to my channel, to our channel. And in this videos, I'll be explaining to you our part 2 discussions in the subject of making informed decisions. So in this video is I'll be explaining to you the idea of Lawrence Kohlberg about moral development, moral deliberation, and moral problems. Okay, so I'll try to speak in Tagalog or English/Bisaya. So because I am very fluent in Bisaya, but I'll try to explain it clearly in English. Let's start with the idea of Lawrence Kohlberg about moral deliberation. So what do you mean by moral deliberation? This is the time when we tend to deliberate that what we are thinking is right or wrong. This is the time when we try to defend our level of thinking of what we did is right or what we did is wrong. So according to Lawrence Kohlberg we have 3 levels of moral development. We have the pre-conventional, the conventional, and the post-conventional. So let's try to explain that. One by one. So let's start with the pre-conventional. So what do you mean by pre-conventional? This is the time when we are so self-centered about what is right or wrong for us. This is the time when we tend to analyze the rewards and punishment. Nga muingon ka nga what I did is right because it gives me reward, and what I did is wrong because I received a punishment. So this is what he called the pre-conventional. This is the time when we tend to become so self-centered about ourselves. As a child, diba, when we were still young, we do things because we receive something. We do things because it serves our self-interest. So that is the time of the pre-conventional stage. And our pre-conventional stage is divided into 2 stages. We have the first stage. So the first stage is the rewards and the punishment, or the obedience and the avoidance of punishment. We tend to obey to avoid punishment. So that is the first stage of pre-conventional. And the second stage of pre-conventional is when we learn to act according to what we think will serve for our self-interest. So when we tend to act because we know that it can give us something, it is beneficial for us, it can fulfill our self-interest. So that is the pre-conventional stage according to Lawrence Kohlberg. So diba, when we were still young, we want to receive something, we want to acquire something. And in order to acquire something is we first obey our parents so that we receive some rewards. Okay, so hopefully that is clear for the pre-conventional stage. How about the conventional stage? So the second level of moral development is the conventional stage. So what do you mean by the conventional stage? This is the time when we as older children, we tend to conform to the society. We tend to follow what is demanded by the society. Okay, we follow rules, we follow certain group just to blend in. So that is the conventional stage. So our conventional stage is divided into 2 stages. Okay, it is divided into 2 stages. We act according to the group that we belong. That is the third stage. We act because we want to conform with other people. We act because our society tells us to do something. So that is our conventional stage. We follow rules. We follow our own society because that is expected for us to do. Okay? So that is the idea of That is the idea of Sir Lawrence Kohlberg, that we do things because that is expected of us. That is the time where we know that what we are doing is right or what we are doing is not good for us. It is based on our society. So as we grow older, we try to conform with our society. We try to blend in with our group. We try to blend in with other people as part of our society. Okay, so and the third level of moral development, according to Lawrence Kohlberg, is the post-conventional. So what do you mean by post-conventional? So when you talk about post-conventional, this is the time when we recognize the right or the wrong. As a moral agent, we try to internalize things, right? So it doesn't mean we tend just to follow the society. The post-conventional is we try to analyze things if that is really good for us or not. So that is the post-conventional level. So in here, for our post-conventional level is we tend to decide, we tend to act accordingly based on what we think is right or wrong. So now it is not demanded by the society. We tend to analyze. The post-conventional is we tend to act accordingly and analyze things and try to think if that is really good for me or not. So our post-conventional is divided also into two stages. We have the social contract. Okay, so the social contract is we tend to argue what is really ought or what is really important for us. We tend to argue. That is our social contract. Okay, we bind ourselves based on society, but we now have our own ways of thinking if that is really good for me or not. Okay, so this is the highest stage of our moral development, because this is the time when we tend to internalize things, when we learn how to weigh things out, or when we try to conform based on the common good. So that is our post-conventional. We tend to argue, to ask questions, and to act accordingly. Okay, so this is the time when we become so responsible with our own level of moral thinking. So that is the idea of Lawrence Kohlberg about our levels, about how do we develop our morals. It is the first one is the pre-conventional, the conventional, and then the post-conventional. So as we grow older, we tend to know better what is right or wrong for us. Okay, so in this time around is we need to know the feelings of moral deliberation. So as what we all know that an American psychologist, Lawrence Kohlberg, he explained to us the different levels of moral development. And according to him, there are a lot of factors that influences our morals. So that's why your moral is different from my own morals, because we have different upbringings, we have different values, we have different things to consider. But we should also learn the value of common good, or the universalizability, the universal ethical principles in understanding what is really right or wrong for us. Okay, so this time is we will try to explain the idea of the feelings in moral deliberation. So what do I mean by the feelings in moral deliberation? As we all know that when we try to defend ourselves, when we try to argue about our own morals, it touches our feelings, our inner feelings, right? So according to Lawrence Kohlberg, emotions or feelings is always there as humans. We have our emotions and we also have our different feelings in certain circumstances. So that's why according to him, we cannot deny the fact that sometimes our decisions is also influenced by our own feelings or emotions. So, because we are not a computer, we are not robot. That's why possibly the way we understand our morals is influenced by our own emotions as of this time or feelings as of this time. So this time around, Aristotle comes in to explain the idea of our feelings in trying to understand our own morals. So Aristotle points out that our moral virtue, the way we understand the good or the right, goes beyond our intellect. It goes beyond our rational thinking, because according to him, it is our moral virtue is it is our condition. It is our condition on how we manage our own feelings or emotion. So according to him, it's not all about that you are intellectually good. You will not be affected by your own feelings. No, so what he really tells us is that our moral virtue depends on how we really manage our emotions or feelings. We are the same humans, but how we manage our feelings, our emotions really depends on how you condition yourself about your own situation. So Aristotle did not say that we need to remove all our feelings when thinking about our morals. Aristotle would like to tell us that we need to cultivate our character in managing our own feelings. We need to understand our feelings or emotions in deciding about right or wrong. So we should not stop that. Yes, I am intellectually good, but I don't know how to manage myself or emotions or feelings. According to Aristotle, it's not a good thing if we don't know how to manage our emotions or feelings, because our emotions or feelings is within us, and it is us who can control about it. So according to Aristotle, our moral virtue depends on how we know how to manage our emotions or feelings properly. Yes, we get hurt, I get hurt, but the way we manage our emotions or feelings differ from one another. Okay, so Aristotle did not say we should remove our feelings, because your feelings, my feelings is always been there. He just want us to cultivate our character in managing our own emotions or feelings properly. Do not act immediately, right? Do not act immediately. Think before doing such act, so that you will still be acting properly as a human being. According to Aristotle, we have what makes us humans is we have our own emotions, right? And according to him, in his analysis, that there can be a disconnect between intellectual knowledge and intellectual knowledge of the good and your ability to do good properly or accordingly. Why there is a disconnect? Because possibly, uh, because possibly we are so overpowered by our emotions. And sometimes, because of our extreme emotions, although we know that it is the wrong thing to do, because of our extreme emotions, we tend to act wrongly. We tend to act something that later on we regret because of our extreme emotions. That's why no matter how good you are or how brilliant, how smart you are, if you don't know how to manage your emotions accordingly, properly, your possibly you will be affected by the consequences of your actions. So he sees that moral virtue or your moral is a matter of habitually managing your feelings in the rightful manner. Your ability to manage your own emotions or feelings in the right way. It's not all about knowing that it is right or this one is wrong. It is also about learning to weigh things, learning to manage yourself despite the different situations that you are in, that we are in. It's all about how we manage or develop ourselves to be better. Okay, it's not all about being smart, it's also about handling ourselves properly. That is the essence on moral deliberation or the feelings in moral deliberation. Okay, so doing the right thing for Aristotle is being able to manage one's feelings. And he clearly explained to us that we should learn how to manage our feelings or emotions in whatever circumstances because that is a good moral virtue. If you can't manage yourself properly, possibly you will face the consequences of your actions and it will lead or it can harm you as a person because our emotions, our feelings is always been there. It is inner, it is within us. No matter what we do, there is always feelings or emotions attached to it. And I believe that what makes us human. That what makes us uh, a good human being if we know how to manage our emotions or feelings properly. Okay, so because anyone can even argue about their morals. Because when you talk about morals, we will also be talking about the things that we value the most, and it includes our serious feelings. But the idea of Aristotle is this: is we need to cultivate our own character. Is us, let's not be self-centered. That's the idea of Aristotle. Let's not be self-centered. Let's not be individualistic. What he wants us to tell us is to know how to cultivate our feelings, let go of our childish emotion, let go of the things that is not good for us. So the main purpose of our feelings in moral deliberation is trying to understand our pre-conventional, the conventional, and the post-conventional. That our feelings is always been there. It is within us. It is our inner feelings. But Aristotle pointed out that we need to let go our childish emotion. We should let go our individualistic notions. We should not be self-centered about understanding the right or the wrong. We should learn how to cultivate our own character because according to him, the mature moral agent realizes that she is a product of many forces. I am a product of many forces, elements, and events that shape my character. And she also realizes that she is not merely a puppet of external causes. So what do you mean by this? Is according to Aristotle is we are not a puppet of external causes. Yes, I am a product of a lot of things. I am a product of the events that is happening to me, the things that I've been through. I am the product of the external forces, but I am not a puppet, meaning I can think wisely, I can do things properly, and I can act accordingly. So that is the idea when you talk about the feelings in moral deliberation. We can fight our morals, but try to ask yourself, are you staying in the pre-conventional or the conventional or the post-conventional? Okay, so hopefully we are going through the post-conventional. We know how to act accordingly based on the common good or the universal ethical principles. Okay, so I hope you are learning from the moral deliberation, from the stages of moral development. The third discussion is I'll explain to you the this topic, the moral problem. So part of deliberation, part of our argument is we will encounter some or moral problems, and let's try to explain that. So the question is this: are you a morally mature individual? Okay, so if you're going to ask me, am I a morally mature individual? Okay, so let's try to think ourselves first. As where do I belong? Where do I fall? In what level of moral development? Am I in the pre-conventional, conventional, or the post-conventional? So let's try to see how we manage our moral. Are you a morally mature individual in facing moral problem, in dealing with your own moral problem? Okay, so let's try to understand that. Take note that there are different types of moral problems. So the best way to know if we are a morally mature individual is to get to know the different types of moral problems and the steps in understanding our morals. So based on research, the first step to understand our morals is to determine our level of involvement in the case at hand. What do you mean by this? Is the idea is to know your morals is to get to know if you are involved with that situation or not. So if you are not involved in a situation, it is better not to engage yourself in, because possibly if you get yourself involved into something that you are not supposedly involved, is you will encounter a lot of moral problems in such a way that your judgment is not right. You are making judgment even if you are not involved in a situation. That's why nowadays, because of social media, we are so attached with so many things. We are so attached with so many people, and sometimes we make comments, we make judgment without understanding that we might hurt somebody's feelings or emotions. Right? So that's why we encounter a lot of moral problems now, because of our extreme involvement into something, extreme involvement or engaging ourselves into something that we don't know about or we don't know the whole story about. So that is the first step. The second step is to, if you know that you are part of the situation, or if you know that you are involved into a situation, you need to learn how to get the facts, or you need to acquire a lot of information, get the facts before making any moral judgment. Because if you don't get the facts, you make comment or you make judgment without understanding the whole story about it. Possibly you will be misunderstood by somebody or by anyone. So let's try to get all the facts and try to analyze things. What is the best thing to do if ever you are involved in a situation? So I think for me that is the very best thing to do in making our own moral judgment. So we need to ask ourselves, am I involved in a situation? So if you are involved, you need to understand the whole story about it, or get all the facts, the very important information before making any judgment. Okay, the third step to get to know if we are morally mature individual is to identify all the people who will be affected by my judgment. So let's not focus on ourselves alone. In making moral judgment, you also have to consider the feelings of other person. That's why a lot of people nowadays, they make comments or feedback or suggestion without understanding that somebody or anyone can also get hurt because of their feedback or comments. And for me, the main problem now is we make our moral judgment without understanding who will be affected by our judgment. And that's why a lot of bashing, a lot of negative comments can also affect the feelings of other person. That's why we try to defend our side, especially if other people are judging us without understanding the whole story about the situation. So let's try to be careful in making moral judgment, because what is moral for you is different from what I think is moral for me. So we have different morals depending on the things that we value the most, our needs and our wants. So okay, so the final step in knowing if we are a morally mature individual is to make our ethical conclusion or decision. So when you talk about ethical conclusion or decision is you know how to weigh things out. You know how what is the best thing to do. You know if you make mistakes, you know how to accept it. You know that the right thing to do even though it hurts you. You know how to accept things, because a morally mature individual is is very dynamic. A morally mature individual knows how to use his or her own intellect in a rightful manner, and knows how to manage his or her emotions properly and accordingly. A morally mature individual knows how to decide things and knows how to decide things properly. Uh, with passions are very dynamic, who is very acceptable, or who is very good in managing his or her emotion despite in whatever circumstances. So take note, Aristotle also pointed us that there is no automatic moral decisions. I know, or Aristotle knows that it is very hard to make moral decisions, but according to him, it's all about practicing, managing, habituation, and try to respond in the best way possible. Try to think and learn how to manage yourself properly, so as not to incur any difficulties in facing our own moral problems. So let's try to be mindful. That is mindfulness. To be mindful in everything that we do, in everything that we make judgment into something, so as not to engage ourselves into a more serious problem. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are learning from all the videos that I've posted. Thank you so much for your support, for your love. Thank you so much for your love. And we are almost there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and effort. So, success. So, no Bisaya ko ron. So, no Bisaya. I hope that you are learning. My mission, my goal is to help students, especially in understanding this subject. Hopefully, this really helps you a lot. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel to get more updates. Thank you and God bless.